And that's where the EFF is planning to take legal action, they say, against Senzo Mchunu's Chief of Staff, Cedrick Nkabinde. The members of Parliament today accusing Nkabinde of providing inaccurate information in his statement before Parliament's ad hoc committee, which is investigating allegations of corruption and interference in the criminal justice system. Zoleka Qodashe is our reporter on this story. She joins us live now. Zoleka, good evening to you. Lots that we need to talk about before you move inside the police station. By the way, you'll tell us whether the EFF members have already arrived there. But Nkabinde's testimony cut very short. Remind us why.
That's correct, Xoli. You know, at this time, usually at 5 o'clock, we're still inside the chambers of Parliament. But today, we have a different setting. That is the Cape Town Central Police Station, where the EFF has just arrived, in fact, to lay those charges of perjury against the Minister Senzo Mchunu's Chief of Staff, Cedrick Nkabinde, over giving conflicting evidence and testimony before the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. In fact, the EFF's Secretary General, or rather Deputy Secretary General, Leanne Matthys, has been flanked by the Treasurer General, Mpile Mautwe, who is going to be laying those charges against the Chief of Staff over some of the evidence that he's given before the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. And let's just remind you what happened today. So what we expected to happen was, of course, that he would be fielding questions in relation to Brown Mokhotsi, the controversial Northwest businessman, as well as Mokhotsi's relationship with Senzo Mchunu. And in fact, that is what took place. Now, you'll remember, Xoli, that it was in October this year where the top cop in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, said that he was contacted by Brown Mokhotsi around September, in which he then sent a message, or rather reached out to Cedrick Nkabinde, saying or trying to confirm whether that contact was indeed that of Brown Mokhotsi. That was around September. But when Cedrick Nkabinde was asked in October if he knew who Mokhotsi was around October, November last year, he says that that was the only communication that he had with Brown Mokhotsi, because it was the minister who had asked him to facilitate a meeting during that issue in Stilfontein, in which artisanal miners were trapped in the Northwest. So Nkabinde says that that is the first time that he heard of Brown Mokhotsi, and also the first time that he had contact with the controversial Northwest businessman. Let's just take a listen.
Are you friends with Mokhotsi?
No, Chair.
So do you receive stupid messages from people who are not your friends? Because normally people who send each other stupid messages are friends.
Chair, the messages I regard as, it's not a message that someone is chatting to you. When a person is sending an article as a breaking news article, you just ignore it. Oh, it's just breaking news to people that he knows. But I never interacted with Brown Mokhotsi in an exchange of me responding, him sending a contextual message to me.
So you have never exchanged messages with Brown Mokhotsi? That he sends you a message and then you respond to that message and then you have a chat? No?
That's correct, Chair.
Now, Xoli, that is what he has told the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. And so the members of Parliament, particularly the Umkhonto weSizwe parties, Sibonelo Nomvalo, really digging in there in terms of the questioning to the witness, saying that it cannot be possible that in September there was an account in which he also confirmed the evidence that was given by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, saying that he actually confirmed the number that Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi had received messages from. But in October or November, when he was facilitating that meeting between Mokhotsi as well as the minister, he says that was the first interaction that he had with Brown Mogotsi, and that was the first time that he had that particular contact. Let's listen to what Sibonelo Nomvalo had to say in this regard.
If what we're being told here is anything to go by, it means the whole statement is misleading. So the committee can't rely on a misleading statement. And two, even if the statement was written by the evidence leader, they gave you to read the statement. They made you to confirm the content of the statement. And you signed the statement, unless you are telling us that you signed it ad duress. If you are saying to us they made you to sign forcefully, then we can understand. But if they made you to read the statement and allowed you to sign it before the statement was commissioned, then it means the problem is with you. I think, Chair, the only option we have here, because we can't rely on a misleading statement. This is a misleading statement because he says he is not sure of the dates that he has written here. And the statement is reflective of dates from the first to the last paragraph. So there is no need for us to have this interview unless we are saying we have appetite of engaging in a talk show.
Now, Xoli, that is where the discrepancy is in the evidence in chief that has been given by the witness today, that is Cedrick Nkabinde. In fact, the chairperson of the ad hoc committee, Soviet Lachangane, also saying that essentially he's provided conflicting statements in the accounts that he's given by word before the ad hoc committee and also in his statement. You'll remember that he took an oath before he started giving his evidence before the ad hoc committee. And so, particularly the EFF saying that they will be laying criminal charges, perjury, against Cedrick Nkabinde for those conflicting statements, because he also then said no, one event happened before the other, saying that it must have been the meeting that he facilitated between Brown Mogotsi as well as the minister must have been before September. But then that meeting was to discuss the issue in Silfontein. And we know that that is a widely documented meeting, also rather widely documented incident in which those artisanal miners were trapped in the Northwest. And so that is a conflicting statement that he's given before the inquisitorial body today. And so that is what has led us here before at the Cape Town Central Police Station. Let's just take a listen to what the EFF's leader, Julius Malema, had to say.
You know, colleagues, a man sits in front of you and say, I was thumb-sucking this affidavit. He used that word. And then you still, if you take yourself serious, want to go on with an affidavit of being thumb-sucked. He said it. I've thumb-sucked this thing. October, November, and also, Chair, I want to put it on record, it's lying. October, November, it's a correct date because that minister went to the mine on the 14th of November. Not in July, on the 14th of November. And then now he says, no, October, November, he's caught in a lie. He changes to be prior, the call of Mkwanas. It's a lie. It's perjury, it's a lie. He needs to be arrested for lying to Parliament, lying under oath.
Now, Xoli, Cedrick Nkabinde also said that the reason why he was unable to recall the dates in specific is because of that search and seizure operation on his property in which his devices were confiscated or his devices were seized. And so that is why he says he was unable to really pinpoint the exact dates to give to the ad hoc committee. He also said that the statement was drafted by the evidence leader and his legal team before Parliament's ad hoc committee, but also the parliamentarians saying that, be that as it may, he is the one that signed the statement. He actually also confirmed that he stood by the statement, and so he is a signatory of the statement and also took ownership of that statement. And so they were saying that, parliamentarians were saying that it is not an excuse to say that his devices were seized, particularly because in the office of the minister, he would not be acting in isolation. He would have various other parties that would be assisting him in the functions of his duties. And so that is why the ad hoc committee found it untenable that he could use such an excuse as that of a search and seizure operation that took place on his property some few weeks ago for the inability to recollect some of the dates that he has now given before the ad hoc committee, Qoli.
Zoleka, Qodashe, very, very important lessons here that I suspect the members of parliament are trying to drive home, that lying in parliament, lying under oath has consequences. We'll learn from you a little later as to what the EFF would have ultimately achieved today at that police station. She's outside the Cape Town Central Police Station.